So let's say you are aware of the first derivative test and the second derivative test, and you know kind of how to work them out. Well, which one should you use? And my answer, and I'll show you why, is use the first derivative test. The first derivative test is the better choice most of the time. And I'll show you why. Let's say we have like y equals x to the fourth. Let's just take this simple function and let's use the second derivative test on it, just to see what happens. So the second derivative test we'll do on the right side here. So the second derivative test says, okay, let's take the derivative. That's going to be 4x cubed. We set that equal to 0, so that means x equals 0 is my critical point. By the way, that's the same thing as the first derivative test, right? We haven't changed anything there. They're both the same so far. But the second derivative test says, let's take the second derivative. That's going to be 12x squared. And just plug that in. Y double prime at 0 is 0. That tells me it is inconclusive. We just did a bunch of work. We found the second derivative, and it just didn't work. Now, if we did the same thing with the first derivative test, well, all this stuff still applies, right? We still have to do the same work. So we know there's a critical point at x equals 0. But the first derivative test says we plug it into the number line and see what's happening around it. So let's plug in, I don't know, -1 and 1. Plug it into the derivative, which is this guy here. If we plug in -1, it goes down. Some people like a negative sign. I like to put a decreasing sign because it shows the shape. Do what you want to do, though. And on the right side, it's positive or increasing. And that says, oh, it's a minimum. So now you can see the first derivative test worked. And that's why I prefer it. I'll never do the second derivative test, unless I'm told I have to. Because the second derivative test not only is more work because you have to compute the second derivative, sometimes it's a lot harder than in this simple case, but you also aren't guaranteed it's going to work. The first derivative test, though, you have to go through all this work to get the first derivative anyways, and the number line is very easy to accomplish. So I would always prefer the first derivative test instead of the second.